back to the 99, where we are focused on brewing a better competitive commander. I'm your host, Patrick Marlett, here to discuss whether or not win the game spells should be legal in Commander. Now, if you play casually, do note that this is all coming from the perspective of a cEDH player. However, if you want to learn a little bit about this small part of our format, well then stay tuned to hear more. Now, we all know the culprits. There's really only three of them that are seen, and those are Thassa's Oracle, Laboratory Maniac, and Jace, Wielder of Mysteries. These three have been dominating the cEDH meta for years. Well, in the case of Thassa's Oracle, since January of this year. She released this year, yet all of the cEDH meta generally boils down to this one strategy. If you are in blue, you cast a spell that says win the game to win the game. Now, I do have an answer to this question for you. However, I'd love to know all of your thoughts. How do you feel about win the game spells in Commander specifically? Do you feel they should be banned and or left as they are? Now, before I jump further into the topic of this video, I want you all to know the best way to support this channel is via Patreon, and there's, of course, a link in the description that goes over all the benefits for Patreon members. But do note, at the end of this video, there will be a special shout out to one of my lucky Patreon members, as well as the words and opinions of one Brew crew member on the monthly topic. And this month's topic is, what keyword would you like to return to MTG, and why? And I, of course, extend that same question off to you, my lovely viewership here. What keyword would you like to see return to the world of MTG and why? Now, this is unbarred. It doesn't need to be a part of a set or match thematically with a set. It could just be in a Commander Precon. Anything from Gravestorm to Aura Swap. Look those up if you don't know them, but they're awesome keywords, and I'd love to see them make a return myself. Now, before I jump into the meat and potatoes of this, I do want to talk about three alternative win the game spells outside of Mono Blue and compare their viability with our stock standard win the game effects. The first one I want to talk about is Approach of the Second Sun. Approach of the Second Sun reads for 6 generic mana and 1 white sorcery speed. If Approach of the Second Sun was cast from your hand and you've cast another spell named Approach of the Second Sun this game, you win the game. Otherwise, put Approach of the Second Sun into its owner's library, 7th from the top, and you gain 7 life. You could do something like Unsubstantiate or Narset's Reversal and cast it again, but that's a little mana intensive. There are other ways to cheat out the cast of the initial sun, as only the second one is concerned whether it was cast from your hand or not, but I find simply returning it to hand for the next cast to be the most straightforward method. Next up, we have Helix Pinnacle, which reads, for 1 green enchantment, Shroud, X, put X tower counters on Helix Pinnacle, and at the beginning of your upkeep, if there are 100 or more tower counters on Helix Pinnacle, you win the game. Okay, so the idea here would be to make infinite mana before your upkeep and pump this thing up. Remember, you don't gain priority on your untap phase unless you have something like Mesmeric Orb trigger then, so you'll ideally do this before your opponent's turn ends, leading into yours. How you do this without broadcasting your actions is the difficult part, but any infinite mana line will do. Lastly, let's take a look at Coalition Victory, which reads, for 3 generic, 1 white, 1 blue, 1 black, 1 red, 1 green, so Wooburg, sorcery speed, you win the game if you control a land of each basic type and a creature of each color. Alright, so you're obviously in 5 color. You won't get away with the creature of each color clause with Najeela, Tazri, or Kenrith, but something like the first sliver would do. And you'll have needed to fetch a land of each basic type. These can be duals, so that lessens the burden a little bit. It's also sorcery speed, so this one's really not that great. It requires a lot on the caster and is easily disrupted. Simply countering this would stop this resolution, removing said commander if the commander happens to be in every color, and or just removing 1 creature of any color that's granting you the 5 of each color, perhaps strip mining one of the dual lands, and wait. What? So, this card's been banned for a little while. Couple years actually. Each one of these 3 is complete dog shit, and almost equally so. Let's just be honest. However, the one that was most easily accomplished happens to be banned. And I can hear you saying, well, Pat, it's a one card combo. Of course it was banned. But is it really? You'll have to cast your 5 colors worth of creatures, use multiple fetches to get all land types, and spend 8 mana to do this. That's a lot more than one cast. But I totally agree. With the RC, that is. This card should be banned. Every win the game card in Commander should be banned. Radical, right? However, my firm belief is that none of these effects should exist in Commander. I have 2 reasons why I believe every win the game spell should be banned. It has nothing to do with the spell's viability and or the fact that blue is the only color to receive practical applications of this effect. The truth is, win the game spells promote 1. Solitary deck building and play, and 2. Create an uneven playing field. And I'm actually going to start with that second point first, as the common retort I hear as to whether or not these should be banned in Commander is that they allow mono and dual colored lists that are otherwise unplayable to become viable. The odds of that Sig River Cutthroat list winning are better. But the effectiveness of these win the game cards is not proportional from the Sig player to the partner player or the 5 colored Commander player. As a matter of fact, the competitiveness of that Sig list weakens in comparison to the 3 to 5 colored list, as they'll have far less dead draw and more utilities and more play lines to ensure the same victory of Thassa's Oracle actually happens. The argument that these win the game spells make unplayable list playable is patently wrong. They're still equally unplayable in cEDH, and now they're that much worse by comparison. If you commit to playing a blue list in cEDH, you're nearly 100% of the time committing to playing one of these 3 cards, if not 2 or more of them for redundancy, because there is no easier way to win in Magic. It literally says win the game on the card. Which leads me to my first point. A solitary deck is one that plays greedily. It runs minimal interaction outside of counters, which are predominantly there to protect its own combo lines, and is completely self-serving in an effort to cast Thassa's Oracle and Demonic Consultation through a range of play lines. What this means is that the game everyone else is playing has been reduced to 3 or fewer players. When the win is so easily accomplished, of course decks are going to cut out any unnecessary elements that don't help in fast-tracking said win. However, in a 4-person game like Commander, these effects are completely against the intent of this format. Whether it's Coalition Victory or Thassa's Oracle, the fact still remains. Not interacting with your opponents, damaging them out, drawing them out, poisoning them out, beating face to 21 with your commander, if none of these are a goal and your sole purpose in the game is to play a spell that says win the game, you're not interested in playing Commander. You want others to watch you play Solitaire. And while I've seen interesting takes on win the game spells, the strategies all have one thing in common: cutting your opponents out of the equation. So I say let these all go the way of Coalition Victory. I would love for anything else to happen. I can't remember since the beginning of this year losing in any other way, aside from maybe Justin's Narumea list on occasion. That's maybe like the one time I played against a blue list that won in a separate way. Now, I've already talked about how the meta has been homogenized earlier this year, and now with this video, how the power balance is swaying towards 4 to 5 colored list because of the effectiveness of these cards and the devil may care attitude one can take when constructing a list with a card that says win the game. It does not encourage interesting deck building, only solitary thinking. And that's really not what Commander's about, at least not to me. However, I'd love to know any and all your thoughts on win the game spells. I do think that banning all of these, and not just Coalition Victory, would help the meta in a very meaningful way. I would rather lose to Storm. I would rather lose to that Aetherflux Reservoir like I did before. At least there were points of interaction. At least there were moments of interest. Thassa's Oracle and Demonic Consultation has made this meta dry for me. And cEDH is getting just a little boring because of it. Again, I would love to know your thoughts on this, and of course, the monthly topic. Let me know down below And if you want to help support this channel and the content I produce here, the best way to do so is via Patreon. There's a link in the description, but Patreon members get exclusive benefits like a Discord channel to talk directly to me and the Brew crew, as well as weekly pickup games with me and the rest of the crew as well. Weekly, bi-weekly, sometimes the guys play multiple times during a week. We all play online. Chat is done through the Discord. And if you are a Brew crew member, you get to have your thoughts and opinions on the monthly topic voiced on the channel. However, before we get to the monthly topic, I do want to do a special shout out for one of our Patreon members, and that Patreon member is Nomad Hero. Thank you for being a member of the Patreon. You are among the best. And now for his thoughts on the monthly topic, I'll be reading over Brew Crew member Harry's words. I think my favorite keywords are Flash, Dredge, and Flashback. Flash is pretty strong and allows for more tactical plays using creatures. Dredge is by far my favorite, filling my grave with a few answers or a combo, and Flashback is great for most of the decks I play. Being able to still use cards that have been milled away in a Dredge, or just wanting to recast it again. That'll about do it for this video. Now, I know that this topic was a touch divisive for some, however, I would still love to hold that conversation with you all in the comment section down below. Do you feel these cards should be banned or remain unbanned? Why ban Coalition Victory when we have much easier wins at hand? I would love to know. If you are a member of the RC, talk to me. Someone message, if you know a member of the RC, have them message me. What is going on? I don't understand the philosophy on this one. Now, just so you all know, I am not personally interested in seeing more win the game spells get printed in Magic, whether it's for a main set and or a commander only set. And I'm certainly not interested in seeing win the game spells be printed that are viable in other colors, though I thoroughly don't expect that just from historical references. If a card came out for green that said, on entering the battlefield, if I have a creature of 10 or more power, win the game, I would never play that card. I am not interested in playing that card. Winning the game that way doesn't feel like an actual victory to me. My whole deck being hinged on this one effect, just omitting my opponents from the equation and saying, I win the game. Look at this Savala list go off, is not of interest to me, sadly. And I know for some it probably is, but I wasn't looking for Magic to be any easier, particularly in a 4-person format. As a matter of fact, I was hoping to play with 3 other people. That's just how I honestly feel, and I'd love to know how you guys feel as well. Again, my name is Patrick Marlette, and happy brewing, babies.